How can you reduce some of your costs while doing resin art? One of the ways is to source cheaper products from places like Temu, and I've done just that with some alcohol inks, which we're going to have a look at today to see how it stacks up against other alcohol inks like Pinata. When I started off doing my resin artwork and using alcohol ink in the resin, then I used Pinata that was locally available to me and cost me about $12 New Zealand, which is about $7 or $8 US for a 0.5 ounce bottle. Now I recently just got a order from Temu, which obviously comes from China. Now the bottles are a bit smaller, 0.34 of an ounce, but it cost me 28 New Zealand dollars, so maybe about $16, probably about 80 cents US per bottle of this alcohol ink, which is a big savings, as you can see from the cost difference. So a good way to test it out is to do a resin project. So we're going to do a resin coaster and we're going to use these alcohol inks and see how it comes out. If I have time, we've got a couple other ideas for projects which we'll try out, and if I don't include it in this video, I might include it in another video just all about using alcohol inks in resin. So here's the package that I got from Temu. So this pigment ink or alcohol ink essentially has 24 bottles in there. It's pretty nondescript, so there's no branding on there, and each of the bottles has both English and Chinese, so pretty easy to read the English part. There's a variety of colours along with white, so white's obviously quite important if you want to do any blooming and things like that. One of the things I find with the alcohol ink is that you do have to clear the nozzle, not only these from Temu, but the ones, the Pinata ones that I had as well. I had to clear each of those when I went to use it. For this particular coaster project, then I'm laying down dots of alcohol ink. It can be a little bit hard on this mould here because there's an indent on the surface of the mould, which means obviously when the art piece is finished, then that creates an indent and makes a nice little pattern, but for putting down the alcohol ink, it can be a bit of pain. I'm going to be using about 5 colours for this, with a range of colours across the spectrum to give a bit of a rainbow pattern. So the idea is to drop the resin on top of this and those colours to then wash out to the edge and then bleed in slowly. So that can normally give a pretty cool effect, and we're going to try that with this testing of the alcohol inks for this coaster. Instead of putting you through the pain of watching this real time, I'm going to speed this up now and we'll get to the fun part in a second. Right, it's time to now put the resin down and see how that reacts with the alcohol ink. And so far so good. What I find is that the resin pushes the colour to the edges and then it will slowly bleed back in, so you should see that happening. Of course, another way that you can use alcohol ink is if you put the resin in first and then drop the alcohol ink into the resin and get a reaction that way. I quite like doing it where you can put the alcohol ink first, it gives this cool effect, but either way you get some pretty amazing results, and it's one of the fun things that you can do with resin. Right, it's time to demold, so let's have a look and see how this has turned out. I'm pretty impressed. I really like how that's looking so far. Just get the mold off. So most of the colours have kept their separation, which is pretty cool, and yeah, I like how it's looking so far. I understand that there's a couple of ways you can make your own alcohol inks. So one way would be to mix a small amount of mica powder with some isopropyl alcohol. That's potentially one way to create some alcohol ink. Another way that I heard is that you can get like your old Sharpies, so your coloured pens like your Vivids or permanent markers, and cut that up and dip the core of that in some isopropyl alcohol once again, and that can make a alcohol ink which you can use with resin. So there's a couple of other alternatives out there if you want to try to do this for cheaper. So overall, I'm really pleased with how these alcohol inks performed. They performed just as good as the more expensive Pinata alcohol ink, and so for me it's a no-brainer really to use these again. I might go and purchase some more when these run out to use in my resin projects. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Really love for you to become a subscriber of my channel, where I delve into resin art and different types of mixed media artwork. Until next time, keep creative.